Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session tonight. This is going to be a student panel. So good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're from. I hope first and foremost, this message just finds you safe and healthy. So I'm going to start off by introducing myself. My name is Jackie Marthouse. I'm an assistant director of undergraduate admissions here at Northwestern, and I'm also an alum. I graduated with a communications degree and an integrated marketing communications master's recently. So I'm a double alum. And I'm really excited to be able to kind of give you a brief overview of Northwestern today and also introduce you to your panelists. So I'm going to hand it off to my moderator, Leo, to introduce himself first.
Hi, everyone. My name is Leo. I'm a senior theater major from Washington, D.C. I also have a double major in economics as well. And on campus, I co-chair the largest student-produced musical, a student-written musical and produced musical in the country, the WAMU show. Every fall, we start with a blank piece of paper, and by the end of the spring, we've written and produced an original musical. So it's a lot of fun, and it's a big undertaking. And I'm going to pass it off to Duncan.
Hello, everyone. I'm Duncan. I'm a third year from Alexandria, Virginia, also the DC area. I'm studying journalism and geography with a minor in religious studies. And one thing I do on campus when I'm not giving tours or participating in these virtual panels is I write, edit, and produce articles and stories for Northwestern's only live storytelling event, which is called Lakeville Mag. And I will pass it on to Diana.
Hi, everyone. My name is Diana. I am a senior in the School of Education and Social Policy. My major is Learning Sciences, and I have a certificate in Design and Innovation from the McCormick School of Engineering. I'm from Chicago, Illinois, and when I'm not working in the admissions office as an admissions counselor, I'm working with the Office of New Student and Family Programs, welcoming new students to Northwestern. And I will pass it over to Kayla.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kayla, and I'm a rising third year from Ann Arbor, Michigan, and I'm studying biology and psychology on the pre-med track. And I'm also getting a minor in business. And then sometimes on campus, I like to participate in this club called Mini Chefs, where we go into downtown Chicago and Evanston and teach little kids about healthy eating and how to cook for themselves. And I will be passing it on to Hannah.
Hi, my name's Harcourt. Sorry, my name is not correct right now. I'm going to fix that in just a moment. But I am a graduating senior right now, fourth year, and I'm from Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm majoring in McCormick Integrated Engineering Studies, specifically titled User Experience Design Engineering with a minor in psychology. And something I love to do on campus is be the graphic designer for my, for a student-run apparel company called Ink Tank on campus. So now I'm going to pass it back off to Jackie.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. So these are your panelists tonight. And before we get started, first and foremost, I want to remind you, go ahead and drop questions in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and go through a couple highlights about Northwestern just to set the scene for you. But of course, if you think of anything as I'm talking, or you're just super excited about what your hosts have already said, please go ahead and drop questions in the chat. And so before we even go through an overview of Northwestern, I just want to kind of address that we're all in a very kind of uncertain, turbulent kind of moment right now. And I feel that for you, I'm in it as well. And we are in the admissions world too, right? And so this, you're probably wondering, how is it going to affect you? How is COVID-19 going to affect you? How do the world's continued racial injustices going to affect you on campus? And so on our end, during the admissions process, I want you to know that we're aware of what's going on in the world. We're aware of that context, and we will always consider that when reviewing your application and also in who we're looking for on campus. So if you're worried about something about the pandemic and how it's going to affect your grades or your testing, please be assured that we're going to take that all into consideration. And our director of admissions has actually written a blog post about this. So I point you to check that out. And then again, with everything going on, and the continued, again, racial injustice is coming to light, our director has also posted a blog post to kind of point you towards more support on campus for that as well. Additionally, we also just have a COVID-19 website, so you can learn a little bit more about what Northwestern's doing during this time, how we're going to phase back to campus, what next year looks like, something that might not affect you immediately, but it's always good to know what your colleges are doing for COVID, for equality, for equity, all of that good stuff. So I'm just pointing you to resources so you can learn more about that for us. But In terms of Northwestern, just to give you again a quick overview, take about 10 minutes or so to go through that. Northwestern, if you don't know, is located in Evanston, Illinois. So we're just outside of Chicago. I myself live in Chicago, so I commute pretty quickly to work. And what's great about Evanston is it's actually a lakeside suburb. So your campus is literally right by the lake. You have this beautiful view year round. And campus itself is about a mile long, half a mile wide. So really a great space to be in, and then very walkable. And then again, Chicago's within reach, super close, very accessible. So that's where we're located. We're about 8,000 undergrads strong on campus, along with master's students and graduate students. So you'll see a total of 16,000 people kind of going through campus. And then we also have students coming from all over the world in all different countries. So we have all 50 states represented on campus and over 95 countries represented on campus. And I think that speaks to this idea that I brought up earlier, right? Like, look at what your colleges are doing for equity and equality and access. We're bringing students from all over. We respect students from every background. We want to see students from every background. And so when you have students coming from all over the world, it naturally brings itself different types of diversity, not only geographical, but racial, ethnic, socioeconomic, religious, and different academic interests and passions. So that's going on campus. We're part of the Big Ten network. We have students who are interested in a variety of things. We have 6 undergraduate schools. So those are like your fast facts. And that's who we are as a campus. Now, as far as what academics look like at Northwestern, we have a 6-school model, like I mentioned. So there are 6 undergraduate schools. And we're pretty well represented today on this panel. So you'll be able to see almost every school perspective from these students. The only school we look like we're missing is the School of Music, but potentially maybe one of your panelists have taken a class or no students in that school. Because when you're on campus, you're not just siloed off in your one school. All 6 schools give you the opportunity to take classes in them, even if you're not a major. You can hop around, you can switch between the schools. It's very easy to do so. So our academic model is very flexible in terms of what we offer within the 6 schools and in majors, minors, and certificates. Now, the reason why we're so flexible is because we're on the quarter system. So if any of you, if you haven't heard of the quarter system, it's a system much like any other academic term you've heard of, maybe semesters, or maybe your school does do quarters, maybe a little differently, or trimesters. It's all the same way to highlight how a school breaks up their school year. And so a quarter system is taking the entire year and dividing into 4s, 3 of which are your academic term. So fall, winter, spring quarters, you're taking classes, and then typically your summer quarter is your time off. So maybe you want to go home, maybe you want to get an internship, maybe you want to get a job, maybe you do want to take summer classes, that's fine. Or you can do some research or any other activity that'll take you off campus and do something we like to call experiential learning. Experiential learning doesn't just happen in the summer at Northwestern. In that bucket, I would put it as internships, study abroad, research, all ways to get beyond campus and learn. And so we have all those opportunities year round. We have students who study abroad for a quarter, 2 quarters, a year. We have students who do research year round and get paid for it. We have students who do it over the summer and get paid for it. Or we have students who do internships again over the summer or through their courses as part of class credit during the school year. And so all of these different ways to learn and go beyond the classroom, of course, happen across campus, but also within Chicago, across the world. And then there are ways for you to learn and also just grow as a person within our community. So our undergraduate population, as I mentioned before, is very diverse. And that also brings about itself a lot of different things to do on campus. There's so much energy, so many things to be a part of. We have over 500 student groups. So you can easily join a club if you're interested in one. You can easily start one. But this is your moment to not only pursue what you're interested in, but also try new things. And that's kind of at the heart of our campus culture. So there's a lot going on campus again all the time, different events. We've got a cappella groups. There's different festivals like music festivals or concerts. We have students who volunteer in Evanston and Chicago. It's truly runs the gamut as to what's available as an activity. And so those are ways you might meet new people. You might meet new people in your residence hall. You might just meet them through friends of friends or in your classroom. And that's how you're going to engage in this community all 4 years because of everything that's going on and all these different opportunities I've been able to highlight. As far as kind of overall, I just want to highlight that, and you'll see this throughout the panel, our Northwestern community is all about being engaged, being curious, and being collaborative. So across academics, experiential learning, and this community, you're going to see people who want to learn more, who are ambitious, but they're also supportive. It's not cutthroat. There's nothing to kind of drag you down. It's all about lifting you up and allowing you to explore different facets of what you're interested in and your identity. And so that's at the heart of the Northwestern culture and who we are and everything we have to offer. As far as how you might now apply or what it means for you financially to go to school, I just want to touch on that really quickly because that's another important factor of the admissions process. You can love everything I'm saying or want to check it out more for yourself, but you also need to know eventually how you take that next step to maybe come here. So on the admissions side, I just want to highlight that we're a holistic admissions process. So every piece of your application is important. Again, I mentioned earlier, we've addressed kind of how we would review your application in light of COVID-19, in light of ongoing protests, in light of ongoing uncertainty in your life. And I want you to know that our process hasn't changed. Since I've started really at this office and before, we've always looked at everything in your application and how that's going to put you together as an applicant. How we read that is, where are you coming from? What is your high school offer and coursework? Are you from a state right now that maybe doesn't have as many testing centers? Those are all matters of context and things that I'll consider when I'm reading your application. And so I want you to remember that when you're putting together your application. Not only does your transcripts and your test scores count, but we also want to see what you've been involved in your extracurriculars. We want to know what your teachers have to say about you and what is your essay about? Why are you interested in Northwestern? And also, what do you potentially have to offer? All of that can be gained by only looking at your application completely. So I want you to keep that in mind as you're filling it out. I do want to take a moment just to address that. As of this moment, and again in the blog post, we are asking for that ACT or SAT score, but we are extending deadlines for those scores, and you can see that in the blog post. And I just want you to know that if we have any updates for you, we will obviously reach out and let you know. And so on to that next part then, before I wrap up admissions and get into financial aid, I just want to say there are 2 rounds to apply to Northwestern: early decision and regular decision. Early decision is binding. And so if you're going that route, as my colleague Jenna likes to say, maybe your ringtone is the fight song already. That's the route for you because you know you love Northwestern. And so that is binding, which means if you're admitted, you will be enrolling at Northwestern. And that's due November 1st. If you're like, I don't know about that, I like my normal ringtone, or if you're like me and you don't have a ringtone because my phone's always on silent, you can go regular decision. That's the non-committal route. And that's due January 1st. And you have until May 1st to weigh your options. And so those are our 2 rounds to apply. Again, holistic all the way through. The only difference is one is you're making a larger commitment than the other. And then finally, financial aid. Just to cover it a little briefly, financial aid at Northwestern is 100% need-based, and we meet 100% of demonstrated need. So that means we look at your FAFSA and your CSS profile, and those together come and form a number your family can contribute to your education. We take our total cost of attendance minus that contribution to be your financial aid package. So that package is, again, 100% of the difference, and it's also no loans. So there are no loans in our financial aid package. Everything that's in that package will be something that you will not have to pay back. And so that is, again, the briefest of brief overviews of our financial aid policy. I encourage you to look at our website and check out financial aid website. There's a net calculator on there. Every school that offers federal aid has a net calculator. So it's a space for you just to learn more about what it might look like if you were to attend Northwestern and how much it might cost. Again, any school has one of these, so you can also just check it for all the schools you're looking at. And so that is my brief overview. But now I'm going to kick it back to Leo. And again, continue asking your questions in the chat so our panelists can answer them.
Thank you so much, Jackie. We have one more panelist joining us today. I'm going to let Maeve quickly introduce herself, and then Maeve, you can just pass it back to me and we'll get started with the Q&A. So Maeve, take it away.
Yeah, hi, I'm Maeve. I'm from Los Angeles. I just finished my second year. I'm a mathematical methods in the social sciences major with a minor in computer science. And a fun thing I do on campus is TA for calculus courses.
Amazing. So let's get started. We got a question about the city of Chicago. Northwestern is located just a couple miles from the borderline with the city of Chicago and a quick train ride downtown. So how do students interact with the city of Chicago? How often do you go into the city of Chicago? And let's talk about Northwestern's connection with the city in general. Diana, would you be willing to talk about this?
Yeah, of course. Do you mind repeating the question really quickly? Sorry, my Wi-Fi cut out.
Yes, no problem. Just talk about Northwestern's connection with the city of Chicago and how often students go into Chicago and what the connection with the city looks like.
Yes, of course. So Chicago is super accessible from Northwestern, and it's actually the reason that a lot of students choose to come to Northwestern. It's kind of like a great balance of having the suburban environment of going to school and being in a really tight-knit community, but having a world-class city just south of you. And so one of the things that Northwestern does to make it really easy for students to travel to and from Chicago is we have an inter-campus shuttle, which takes you from our Evanston campus to our Chicago campus. The Chicago campus is where most of our graduate classes are held, like the School of Law and the Middle School of Journalism and our Feinberg School of Medicine. So the inter-campus is a shuttle, and with your wild card, you can go to and from Evanston for free. And it's just about a 45-minute drive down Lakeshore Drive, and then you are just north of the Magnificent Mile. A lot of students also really enjoy the proximity to Chicago because of the opportunities that it affords for organizations to be able to collaborate with neighborhoods in Chicago, as well as just general tourism and recreational activities. One of my favorite things about being so close to Chicago, one is because I'm from Chicago, so I get to be close to where I grew up, but also having a lot of opportunity to explore different neighborhoods that I maybe hadn't had the option to when I was a bit younger, and really just have a lot of fun in a big city while still feeling the comfort of being able to go back to Northwestern and to that tighter knit community. Students can also get to Northwestern through the train. So Northwestern has the L, which is our train system, and Northwestern has 3 nearby stops by campus, which take you down to downtown in about 30 minutes. So a lot of students do choose to go to Chicago for recreational activities, but a lot of students will also choose to do internships in Chicago during the summer or during an off quarter to have an out of classroom experience. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Diana. So while we're talking about the city of Chicago, a lot of people want to know about the weather here and what it's like to move here, especially if you're coming from a different climate. So Kayla, maybe if you want to talk about the cold and what it's like to adjust and live in the climate that we have here.
Yeah, definitely. I can talk about that. So I'm from Michigan, which is in the Midwest. It's kind of similar weather to Chicago, so it wasn't a huge change for me. But one of my best friends is from Miami, Florida, and she'd never seen snow before in her life. So it was definitely a huge adjustment for her, not as much for me. But I like to tell her, like, because we had known each other before coming to Northwestern, so she was asking me a few questions. And I was like, as long as you have a good coat and a good pair of boots, like, you'll be fine, I promise. But it's also really nice to see how the Northwestern campus kind of bands together in the winter time. So you'll see lots of clubs and like students passing out hot chocolate. Like if you're walking down the street, everybody kind of gets bundled up in their coats and gets on the shuttles that run up and down campus. So you don't have to be walking in the snow. You can take the buses. I remember I got really familiar with the bus schedule because there's a little app on my phone. You can watch the bus come down the street and then decide to come out of your building and hop on right then. Additionally, the city of Chicago is really beautiful in the wintertime as well. So there's lots of like Christmassy and holiday activities going on in the city of Chicago and Evanston. So there's lots of like fun things to do on campus. So I would say winter quarter definitely is different, but it's not unbearable in any way. And you should definitely be fine, even if it is an adjustment for you.
Great, thank you, Kayla. And I'm gonna let Maeve touch on this as well, just because she's from LA, which is obviously a very different climate than here in Chicago. So Maeve, if you could talk about the cold a little bit from your perspective. And then also we had a question about Evanston in general and what students do on their weekends in Evanston. So if you could also touch on the cold and then transition to that as well.
Yeah, of course. So it's definitely a shock for sure. Coming from LA, I had seen snow before, but definitely never had to like come to terms with it or live with it in my daily life. I'd say first off, just get a good coat. But I think the snow is really fun. Like Kayla was saying, there's a lot of really fun things that come along with winter. Like there's ice skating and Maggie Daly, which is like a really fun ice rink in downtown Chicago. And same with like Chris Kindle Market, which happens in December in Chicago. There's a lot of really fun activities, and it's definitely survivable. I always say, like, if I can do it, anyone can do it. But yeah, there's also a lot of other things, just generally for weekends that are really fun to do in Evanston and Chicago. I'd say definitely a big thing that goes on during the weekends in the fall is football games, going to tailgates and going to games. That's a really big part of Northwestern's like school spirit. We don't always win, but we love to go to the games and support the Cats anyways. And then when it's not football season, there's also basketball, so any sort of sporting game on the weekends. But there's also always a lot of student run productions, so plays, musicals, also a lot of comedy shows pretty much every weekend. And those are really fun and a lot of times free to go to for students. And in addition to that, also just Chicago, there's like an endless amount of fun things to do on the weekends in Chicago. So I don't know, I think the world is your oyster as far as weekend plans.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that. That's really great. So someone asked a question about what surprised you the most about Northwestern coming in as your freshman year. So Duncan, maybe you can talk a bit about what surprised you, and also maybe touch on what the first year experience is like. I know you're a peer advisor as well, so you can add in maybe a little bit of that as well to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say that when I was coming into Northwestern, knowing that it's a high level institution, obviously, and coming from my high school experience where I definitely was exposed to a lot more like competitive academics where people were comparing grades a lot, which I think is a pretty common experience. So I was kind of expecting Northwestern to be pretty similar in terms of like comparing yourself to others in terms of grades and competing in like cutthroat academics in that sense. And I was really surprised and pleasantly surprised to find out very quickly that Northwestern is an incredibly supportive and collaborative environment where I can really honestly say that like all the students and the professors and the TAs, grad students have each other's backs. And no one's trying to outdo each other. Everyone's trying to support each other so that they can learn together. And that's really been like a tenet of my Northwestern experience that I really learned really early on that really kind of shocked me because I never had that pleasure to really dive into academics in a world where everyone was just kind of looking out for me and trying to support me and help me succeed for no other reason and not to try like necessarily, which I think is one of Northwestern's greatest virtues. And in addition, in terms of the first year experience in general, one of the tenets of the first year experience as well is Wildcat Welcome, which is our orientation experience, where all new students will be paired with a peer advisor along with about 14 or 15 of their fellow first year students or transfers. And they will go through a whole week-long training program where they're introduced to the university. They get to know some of their fellow classmates. They get introduced to professors, faculty members, advisors. They sign up for classes for their first quarter. And that's kind of this incredible crash course that's like exhausting, but so much fun because you get to meet so many new people. And I really love it too, because you actually, you're not sitting in your room alone trying to figure out how to make friends. You kind of are automatically thrown into life at Northwestern, which makes it a lot more fun and a lot easier to get to know people and kind of make small talk, meet people that you have similar interests to, and kind of dive into the Northwestern experience. And that experience extends throughout your entire first year at Northwestern because you will be meeting with your PA group, your peer advisor group, throughout your first year at different checkpoints to make sure that you're transitioning well, to provide extra support where it's needed, because obviously the college transition is daunting for anyone and all of us, of course, and no one knows everything. So we're really here to provide resources to new students as well. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Duncan. That was a really comprehensive and great answer. So people are asking questions about academics. So I wanted, Harcourt, if you could talk about what it's like to take classes in different fields, the flexibility of taking classes in multiple fields. I know you have an interesting major as well as a minor. So just talking about those opportunities. And if you could also touch on the distribution requirement and what that is and how it factors into your ability to take classes across all different areas at Northwestern.
Yeah, absolutely. So a major thing about all the different schools here at Northwestern, but specifically McCormick in general, which is my home school, the McCormick School of Engineering, is whole brain engineering and making sure that everyone who graduates from McCormick or Northwestern in general is really well-rounded. So to do that in McCormick, we have you have your major classes and you also have the theme. And so the theme is a group of 7 classes you take that have to be outside of your major. They have to be humanities and social science classes. And so you'll take those, and that allows you to have your right side of your brain and also the left side of your brain really activated while you're learning at McCormick. As far as the distribution requirements for different schools, we have in Weinberg College of Arts and Sciences, we have the distribution requirements, and there's 12 of those, and it's in 6 different fields, and you take 2 classes in each of those fields. So there are things like fine arts and ethics and math is not the actual term for it, but math or formal studies classes. Yeah. So you take classes in all of these different areas. One of the things I liked about the distribution requirements, because as Leo said, I have a weird major and I kind of bounced around a lot on trying to find a major here at Northwestern, is those distribution requirements, they allow you to take classes in different fields so you can find out what you're more interested in. So for example, I came in really interested in art classes, but also really interested in math. And I liked taking both of those, but I wasn't sure where I wanted my major to take me. And so the distribution requirements in Weinberg helped me take a computer science class and also take an art class and also take a psychology class to figure out what I was most interested in and help me make a plan for my life here at Northwestern.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Harcourt. That was really, really, really great. Someone's asking a question about research on campus and what that looks like. Kayla, I know that you have experience doing research, so you could tell us what that looks like. It would be really great.
Yeah, so research is actually really accessible here on campus. So even before I came to Northwestern, I already knew that I wanted to do research. It was part of my decision to come to the school. And actually, you guys can all go online right now and look up like Northwestern Research Database and see all of the research that's happening in and around campus. So that's a great way for students to see what professors are doing research on different ways that you can get involved. Additionally, Northwestern will give you money actually to help you in whatever way you need to complete this research. So that means you taking initiative and starting your own research idea and like going after that yourself, you can use that money to over the summer do that, where they will give out grants to you. Additionally, there are grants during the school year, and this money can also be used if you do want to work in a research lab, and this money can be used to pay for your living spaces if you're going to be here over the summer. But for my research in particular, how I got involved with that was I had a professor, she was one of my psychology professors, and she would talk about her research in class because a lot of professors like to talk about their research or other research happening on campus. There's a lot of Northwestern pride in the things that we do here. And then after that class, I really enjoyed it. And then I reached out to her after the course and sent her an email. And I was like, I was really interested in this part of your research study. I was wondering if I could help out in any way. And basically we just, there was email correspondence where she was like, yeah, we'd definitely love to have extra hands in the lab. And then that summer, I actually was able to spend it here in Evanston in the summer working for her and doing research in her lab, which was just a super cool experience and was able to carry over into the school year as well. Since then, I've been emailing other professors in bio to try and do research with them as well, because I'm interested in both. But research is something that's super accessible here, and it doesn't have to be just in the fields of STEM also. So I have a friend who, she's actually another tour guide, and she's studying political science. And so she does research to study to see if based on your demographics, you can figure out how you're going to vote. But we also have research in the humanities, in business areas, in literature, fine arts, stuff like that as well. So there's tons and tons of research happening on campus.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kayla. Let's transition a little bit to a question someone asked about security and safety on campus. So Diana, if you could tell us a little bit about the security and safety measures that are on campus, how safe do you feel in Evanston and Chicago in general? And have you had any experiences where you've ever felt unsafe, and maybe how those were addressed?
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good question, especially for students who are kind of shifting their experiences coming from high school, wherever you went before Northwestern, and coming to a completely new environment. It's a very valid question, and one that a lot of students really enjoy Northwestern for. I would say that the security measures on campus are very, very well thought out and very in conjunction with the Northwestern community. So we have our own police departments, NUPD, and essentially they are usually around campus most of the time, just hanging out, asking, wondering if you need anything. And there are a lot of resources for students to be able to reach out to campus security or to NUPD for anything that they might need. One of the really cool things that Northwestern has is called blue lights. So from every blue light, you can see another blue light, meaning that they're really close together, really accessible. And those blue lights are for emergencies, and they are for people to be able to contact NUPD immediately if they need it. It's especially useful if you don't have your phone or a way to contact NUPD. And it's something that really keeps students at peace because you're able to contact any resources that you need immediately without having to worry about the way that you're accessing them. I personally have not had experiences where I felt unsafe. It is a new community, and it is kind of daunting to adjust to a new environment and to kind of have that transition from where you were before Northwestern to coming to Northwestern and kind of getting adjusted into that new living space. But again, there are a lot of resources that not only come from NUPD, but also come from your residence hall if you are a first or second year student, and those measures that are taken. Additionally, there are security guards at every single residence hall on campus. So know that that is also a resource that you can access if you need.
Thank you, Diana. That's really comprehensive. Someone asked a question about Greek life and what it's like to get involved with Greek life on campus, and how many people are involved. What does the process look like? So Maeve, I know you're VP of Finance, I believe, for your sorority. So maybe you could talk about what Greek life looks like and how prevalent and prominent it is on campus.
Yeah, so as Leo said, I am VP of Finance for my sorority. And I think the number is that we have about 40% of students who are in Greek life at Northwestern, and that counts, that includes all of our multicultural fraternities and sororities. And I'd say it's definitely something that's there if you want it. I have a lot of friends who aren't in Greek life, and I've met a lot of people from being in Greek life. We have a winter rush at Northwestern. So you don't join Greek life until you've already had a full quarter at Northwestern, which I think is a great way to do it. It really lets you find your own community first. And then if it's sort of there if you want it. So that's how the process has been. It's been great for me, but it's not for everyone. And it's definitely not something that, anyone should feel like they have to do at Northwestern.
The sentiment I always get about Greek life is that it's definitely there to be a part of if it's something you want to do. And if you don't, there's plenty of other social activity happening on campus, and it doesn't have to be part of your experience if you don't want it to be. Speaking of social life and things that are happening on campus, I want to talk a little bit about campus traditions. So someone asked in our chat, can anyone paint the rock? So Duncan, maybe if you want to talk about the rock specifically, but also maybe your favorite campus tradition and some wider campus traditions that you've participated in your time here.
Yeah, absolutely. So a cool aspect and landmark on campus, in the middle of our campus, in between academic buildings, is something called the Rock, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a big rock in between a bunch of academic buildings in the Humanities Plaza. And essentially the backstory of the Rock is that it used to be a fountain in the center of the plaza in the early 1900s. And it actually stopped working because the pipes froze and got moved to the back of the plaza and covered with a wall. And the tradition started of painting that fountain, where initially actually in the 1950s, the freshman class, one of those years, painted it with the message that said freshmen rule, seniors drool. Of course, the seniors didn't take too kindly to that message. But 3 years later, those same freshmen, when they became seniors, continued that tradition by painting it again with a message that said seniors rule, freshmen drool. And so goes the story for the rest of history, because nowadays painting the rock is a great tradition at Northwestern. There are only 2 rules to painting it. You have to guard it for 24 hours before you get to paint it, and you have to paint it under the cover of night. But the 24-hour guarding period is really cool because that guarantees that if you go through the effort of painting the rock, that your message, your advertisement, the event that you're trying to get out there will be advertised on the rock for at least a day. So student groups and different students and organizations paint the rock all the time to promote events, to promote their clubs, their organizations, things like that. So that's a really awesome tradition that we have at Northwestern. A couple other traditions. One of my favorite ones is Armadillo Day, which is Dillo Day for short. It was actually founded in the 1970s by the Texas Student Organization, so hence the name Armadillo, and it got shortened to Dillo over the years. And that is our student music festival on campus. That's actually the largest student music festival in the country, and we bring in famous acts every year who come in and perform on the Lakeville, right on Lake Michigan, on campus, and thousands of students go every year. And it's a great way to kind of wrap up the year in the spring and enjoy the weather before exams come around, and kind of celebrate the end of the year, celebrate the warm weather, and listen to some good music. So those are 2 great traditions. Another one that's important to point out is March Through the Arch, which actually happens during Wildcat Welcome, which I talked about a few minutes ago. And that is where all new students actually march under the arch, which is the Weber Arch, the unofficial entrance to campus. And they march under that arch with their fellow new students, kind of signifying their first official day as Northwestern Wildcats. And their family members, the marching band, current students, peer advisors, all stand along the side of that pathway, cheering them on as they officially are greeted as Northwestern students. So those are a few awesome traditions that we have.
Super, super cool. Yeah, I love Northwestern traditions. Dillo Day is one of my favorites, and I was a peer advisor too, so I've done March to the Arch a whole bunch of times. It's a lot of fun. Someone asked me a question directly, which is, Leo, can you talk a little bit about your experience combining theater classes with student groups, as well as the vibe of the performing arts scene on campus? So I'll address that a little bit myself. So Northwestern has a student theater organization called STUCO, the Student Theater Coalition, which has 9 constituent boards, collectively producing about 80 different productions throughout the entire year, which someone said earlier, I believe. So there's a lot going on in terms of theater. We also have comedy groups, improv, sketch, TV, like in person, whatever you want to do in terms of comedy, it's there as well. Northwestern has 14 a cappella groups as well. In addition, we have any number of dance groups. So whether you're interested in hip hop, ballet, tap, jazz, contemporary musical theater dance, there's a group on campus for you to get involved in. And pretty much every single extracurricular performing arts opportunity on campus, you can participate in it regardless of whether you are majoring in a performing arts discipline or not. So it's really easy to get involved in audition for anything that's happening on campus. And you don't have to be a theater major, you don't have to be a dance major or a performing arts or an opera major. If you are passionate about the arts, you can just show up to a meeting and get involved. People are really happy to have you join their production team. So yeah, it's very, very simple and very straightforward in terms of getting involved. And we also have a general auditions process here at Northwestern. So when you're auditioning for theater on campus, you don't have to go to 100 million different auditions to be considered for all the productions that are happening. You just go to one audition every quarter, and all the shows that are producing in that quarter will be in the room, and you can do your one audition for them. It makes it really easy. It makes it easier for the shows that are producing to coordinate between the performers who are going to be in there. In addition, you can get involved if you don't want to perform at all. There are any number of production teams that you can get involved in. So you could be a stage manager, you could be a lighting designer, costume designer, technical director, a master carpenter. And if you don't have the skills to do any of those things, you can certainly get involved as an apprentice to someone and kind of work your way up and learn this trade as you go. So there's tons of opportunity, and I could talk about this literally all day long, but I won't take up too much more time on that. Someone asked a question about service opportunities on campus and what service-based clubs we have on campus. Diana, I know you've been involved with NUTM and Best Buddies and Special Olympics as well. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about your experience doing service-based work on campus.
Yeah, so I talked a little bit about the benefits of our proximity to Chicago. And one of the really great things that offers to students is the opportunity to work with not only the Northwestern community or the Evanston community, but also the greater Chicago community, and be able to be involved with food depositories or with community-based organizations that are nearby, and kind of use that as an opportunity to do service and do good, and kind of give back to the community that you're living in. So my experiences have been really awesome. I joined Special Olympics and Best Buddies when I was a freshman at Northwestern. And essentially those opportunities, Special Olympics took me to the YMCA that is in Evanston, and I got to work with special needs people and kind of like do just physical activity with them, which was a lot of fun and also very de-stressing, and also a way to kind of get out of that Northwestern bubble and like being on campus all the time. And NUTM, like Leo mentioned, is the biggest student-run dance marathon in the country. And so essentially what that does, it's a really great way to bring the campus community together. And it's a time where we dance for 30 hours straight, and students raise money and awareness for whatever organization is chosen that year. When I did Dance Marathon, one of our beneficiaries was Gigi's Playhouse, which provided opportunities for students with Down syndrome. And it was a really awesome opportunity because not only do you raise money and awareness for the organizations, but you also get to interact with them. So Northwestern really does a great job, Northwestern and the student organizations that are there really do a great job of connecting you to resources and connecting you to organizations that need volunteers, and that are more than welcome to have Northwestern students go. So finding opportunities to do service at Northwestern is not difficult at all, especially because a lot of it is organization based, and there are people who are really passionate about it and kind of build this whole activity around giving back to the Northwestern community. So I would say, like, once you're on campus, along with looking for organizations that might benefit you academically or might benefit something that you're talented at, there's also a lot of ways to get involved in ways that fit your needs, whether that be creating technology for communities around you or whether that be just going and spending time with somebody else. It's really easy to kind of give back to the communities that you're a part of.
Great, thank you so much, Diana. So speaking of the community and how to find the support that you need, kind of on a different angle, on a different note, I was wondering, Harcourt, if you could talk a little bit about the faculty-student relationship, both on and off campus, maybe talk about office hours and how easy it is to access professors, and maybe also if someone asked specifically, are classes mainly taught by professors or TAs? So if you could address all of that, that'd be great.
Yeah, of course. So first off, all of our classes are taught by professors. The TAs will sometimes hold discussion sections once a week if a class is over 50 people, but every single class that you will register for will be taught by a professor. Another note on the professors, I always joke about this, is the professors bribe you to come to their office hours. So they have them once a week, and they're required to technically, but like I said before, they bribe you, they want you to come there. I have been offered brownies, candy. Some people bring their dogs in, or sometimes their children in. One time, one of my professors said, just bring a mug and I will provide 15 different flavors of tea and the milk and the water for that. And so basically, they just really want you to come to the office hours so badly. They are available for you. To come in and ask questions about anything you might be confused about, or if you're just really interested in what they're passionate about. A lot of times, like, you can use that space to just talk with them. You can also set up other meetings with them. I've definitely done that with professors where I felt like I really resonated with what they were teaching, or I was curious about learning more about their career path, any of that. And I would say all of the times I've done that, they've been really receptive and we've been able to set up a meeting. My advisor is the person I always talk about when I talk about professor-student relationships, because my advisor, Professor Gatchell, is just the best advisor ever. You're supposed to meet with your advisor in the School of Engineering once a quarter just to set up plans. And I am probably in there once a week because he's my go-to person on campus for any school questions I have, any career questions I have, even though we do have a career department, and just any advice about on-campus life. And I think that's really great that he has that type of relationship with so many of his students. And I know so many of my friends feel similarly about their relationship with professors as well.
Amazing. Yeah, I had a professor once who decided to take the entire class out to dinner. So we rented out an entire restaurant, and he bought us all dinner, and we all just got to talk about why we were interested in his class and his research. So it was really, really cool. And it was a great way to kind of break the ice at the beginning of the quarter. It's a great vibe. So speaking of like the atmosphere and the culture on campus, I wondered, Kayla, if you could speak to a little bit about what the vibe about student life is on campus. Maybe talk about school spirit as well, and what your experiences are with that.
Yeah, so I would say that like the community or like vibe at Northwestern is that people are really like inclusive and like want to involve other people. So if there's a club or something, people are going to want you to join it. If you're part of an activity, people are going to want you to join that as well. Even before stepping foot on campus, there were lots of group meets already made for certain things. Like one of my friends was a part of one of people who were all going to go skydiving as soon as they stepped foot on campus. So they all were part of that group chat, and they like went to Chicago and went like indoor skydiving or something like that. In terms of school spirit, we definitely have a lot of that as well. We are a Big Ten school, so we do have like lots of football games that people want to rally around. But in addition to that, there is free merchandise at a lot of our games, not just our football games, but also like basketball. There's a big push to go to lots of women's basketball games this year, which was really nice to see our community also kind of like rally for as well. All games are also free for students on campus, so you can get into that with your student wild card. Also, like when you just walk around downtown Evanston, lots of like stores will have like Northwestern like Wildcats like flags or like signs in the window, so you can see school spirit there. Even like when I'm in the airport, like to fly home or to fly somewhere for spring break, I almost always will see another Northwestern student like wearing like a hat or like a scarf or something. You can see us all wearing our Northwest, some of us wearing our gear today, which is like nice to see. Also, I feel like we have like sub school spirit, if that makes sense. So like sometimes if you live in a certain dorm, people will like represent that. Like if you live in Bob or Willard or something like that, people are super excited to have like dorm school spirit as well, or like for different like clubs or our Northwestern Dance Marathon, you'll see lots of shirts for that. So not only do we have a general Northwestern school spirit, but we do have even these subcategories of people who are like inclusive and want to include others and show off that they're like excited to be a part of something here on campus.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wear my WAMU show merch like all day long. It's like kind of ridiculous. So yeah, you touched a little bit about residential life actually, Kayla. So I'm going to pass it over to Maeve. Maeve, I know you lived in Willard at one point. So if you could talk a little bit about residential life and what that looks like here at Northwestern.
Yeah, so Northwestern has a lot of different sort of flavors of residential life. We have residence halls, which is like maybe your most typical perception of a dorm. Those are pretty usually bigger, like 300 to 500 students. And then we have residential communities, which have a little bit more community. They usually have a faculty like advisor who's assigned to that community, and they run different events to sort of like bring the community together. And then there's residential colleges, which like Leo said, I lived in Willard, which is a residential college. These you have to, when you choose to, basically when in the summer before you come to Northwestern, you can rank all of your like all those different dorms that we have on campus. And for residential colleges, you usually include like a short paragraph about why you want to be in that residential college, because a lot of them have different themes. So a lot of them are on about school. So we have Slivka, which is like the engineering residential college. We have an all women's residential college. Willard is a not major specific residential college, and that's part of why I wanted to be in it. But they generally have like the most sense of community. They're usually much smaller. Willard had a professor and his family who lived in like an apartment inside of the building. But every Sunday they would host like these really fun events where their family would like bring us hot cocoa or like different treats every Sunday. It was like really sweet. Like it's like I had like a 13-year-old daughter, and it was just a super nice way to feel at home when you're, you know, at college and not really in your home. But yeah, they did it for the whole neighborhood too. So all residential halls, communities, colleges, whatever you're in, they're centered into neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has its own dining hall, has its own collaborative working spaces. So there's definitely like something for everyone. And yeah, it's a great experience.
Amazing. Thank you so much. So we did get a question about study abroad as well. Duncan, if you want to maybe quickly touch on that. I know you went to Spain last fall.
Yes, I did. I went to Spain and I had one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. Sorry, I live right next to the L, speaking of connection to Chicago. Um, but I did go to Spain last fall, and all of my friends, have just gotten so bored of me talking about it. But it's because I just loved talking about it because I had such an amazing experience. And just in terms of a few facts about Northwestern study abroad, about a third of our students study abroad at some point in their Northwestern careers, whether it's for a spring break experience that's only about a week, or for a summer experience that's about 4 to 8 weeks, or for an entire quarter, or for even an entire year. So there's really an experience or a program for you, no matter how long you want to go or where you want to go. We have over 150 different programs that send students to over 50 different countries. And we also have an amazing Office of Global Learning that does an incredible job. You can literally just schedule an appointment with them if you are interested in studying abroad, and then go in with an advisor, say, I want to go to this country or this city, or I want to study this thing. And then they'll point you to a map and say, okay, we have programs in X, X, and X country, or in these 3 cities or something like that. And it makes it that easy to get connected with a program for you. So it's super accessible. Tons of students study abroad, and it's an amazing experience. I can't recommend it enough.
Thanks, Duncan. We got a question about student government that I'm going to tackle really quickly. So I served as a senator in our Associated Student Government, or ASG, for 2 years, and I also served on our finances committee. So the government is divided up roughly into 2 branches, which is the executive and the legislative. The student government Senate, any student who is interested can run for Senate. You kind of just need to get a certain number of signatures from your constituency, and our constituencies are divided up by school. So if you're in the School of Communication, you're going to need a bunch of School of Communication students to sign off on your candidacy. There's an election, and then you can be seated in the Senate, as well as we have an executive committee that's headed by a president, an executive vice president, and then a bunch of departments. So there's the finance department, which oversees student group funding. There's an analytics department, which does research on what students are actually interested in and what they want their student government to be doing. There's a sustainability department. There's a diversity and inclusion department. There are many, many different organizations within student government that are looking to better the student experience on campus. It's pretty easy to get involved. They're really always looking for people who are interested in doing it. And the presidential elections do get pretty contentious sometimes. We just had an election a couple of weeks ago. So it's definitely something that you can participate in if you're interested in. And we use a parliamentary system in the Senate. So if you're a real politics nerd, you can read up on Robert's Rules of Order and kind of try to best your fellow senators in debate. It's really a really fun time, and you can make some real lasting change. One of the biggest things that I worked on as a senator is an initiative to completely digitize our student organization financial office, which we're in that process of transitioning, but it used to be a completely paper system, and we're trying to bring that into the 21st century. So a lot of interesting things happening in student government that you can definitely be a part of. Quickly, we just wanted to talk on the last question, which we wanted to know how students feel about the quarter system and what it's like to work on this different pace. Diana, I was hoping you could talk about the quarter system really quickly, and then we're going to transition to our little bit of a wrap up.
Yeah, so essentially the quarter system is the system that we function at Northwestern. Students might be a little bit more familiar with the semester system that kind of divides the terms that you're in school into 2. But Northwestern typically divides it into 4, with 3 being regular attendance quarters, so fall, winter, and spring. And these quarters are 10 weeks long, so it kind of gives you like a fresh start once every quarter is done. And it also allows students to take more classes overall during their time at Northwestern in comparison to other schools. It is more fast-paced, but it also allows students the flexibility to take different classes and really dip their toes into different things if that's something that they are interested in.
Great, thank you so much, Diana. So the last question that we're going to do to kind of wrap up is ask everyone, why Northwestern? Why did you choose this school? So I'm going to pass it off to Kayla first, and then Kayla, if you can pass it off to someone when you're done.
Yeah, of course. So when I first was applying to college, I knew that I wanted to go to a school where I could be involved in research that was near a big city, that was kind of close to home, and that would prepare me for med school. Northwestern checked all of those. boxes, and I was like, okay, like that's perfect. And then I came to visit once over the summer, and that's truly when I fell in love with the campus. I was able to actually attend a summer camp there, so I got to meet some professors and students, and I fell in love with the people there. And that's when I really saw that Northwestern students were really passionate and kind of different from other places that I'd been. And once coming here, I didn't know that I would see such involved communities and support, and so that's really what made me choose Northwestern. So I would like to pass it off to Maeve.
Hi, yeah. Sorry if my dog barks, by the way. There's a garbage truck. So my why Northwestern is really, it's kind of cheesy, but really just the people. When I visited Northwestern, I just like loved everyone's energy and sort of like the vibe of the students, like Kayla was talking about earlier, which is not always easy to tell. But since coming to Northwestern, that's definitely also been my favorite part, is that I especially like as a incoming freshman, there's a lot of competitive energy when you're like looking at colleges and applying to schools, and sometimes going to like an elite school, or you think that might follow you, but like Duncan was saying earlier, Northwestern students are like super collaborative. There's never been like competitive energy between me and any other students in classes. Like my hardest classes are where I've made like some of my closest friends, because we sort of like struggle and work together. So I really think my YNU is just like the energy of the students, and just how passionate everyone is about all their different interests, and how active people are in all different aspects of student life. So I'll pass it off to Duncan.
Yeah, thanks, Maeve. So real quick, I would say that my why Northwestern is that Northwestern really made me feel wanted in a genuine way, and was welcoming, more so than any other school that I applied to or interacted with. And a quick anecdote about that is that Northwestern is actually the only school that I applied to that I received a personal handwritten note from my admissions officer about what he liked about my application and why he enjoyed my essay so much. So that really made me feel so encouraged and supportive. And that was really indicative of my experience with the welcoming nature of the entire Northwestern student body, and professors and faculty as well. And I will pass it off to Harcourt.
Thank you. So my Northwestern is, or my why Northwestern is, when I was looking at colleges and thinking about where to go, my mom said, like, oh, I'm so excited for you. You're going to find your people. It's going to be amazing. And I remember thinking like, Mom, chill. And, but then I got here and I met some of the most passionate, driven, intelligent, and kind and caring people I've ever met. And so my mom was actually right that I did find my people here. And I think Northwestern attracts a type of person that is so driven, passionate, intelligent, and kind. And those people, in addition to obviously the amazing academics, amazing professors, awesome location, all of that together, that's why Northwestern for me.
Diana, I think you're the last person before me. So Diana, if you want to quickly go.
Yes, I can take it last. So my why Northwestern, I applied early decision. So I really knew that Northwestern was the place for me just when I was like applying to colleges since the beginning. And Duncan talked about this a little bit already, but a lot of the student anecdotes that I got were about the collaborative nature of Northwestern. So I would hear a lot of rumors, and particularly in my high school experience, it was really competitive and like academically challenging because people were always comparing themselves to one another. But my favorite part of Northwestern and why I chose to go there is because of the collaborative nature and how you never feel like you're competing against somebody else or that somebody else isn't supporting you, which has never been the case. And people are always super supportive of each other during challenges and during successes. And I will hand it back to you, Leah.
Yeah, so like everyone said, my why Northwestern is really just about the flexibility and the collaboration that is here. I didn't find another university where I could study theater and economics in the way that I wanted to. Northwestern didn't just tell me I didn't have to choose, but actively encouraged me to do both, and that was really special. So thank you everyone so much for tuning in to our panel. I'm going to pass it back to Jackie.
Yes, thank you, Leo. So before we end, I just want to remind you all that we have so much more content on our YouTube channel. So thank you for tuning into this. And we're so happy you were able to. But if you have more questions or more things you want to learn, please check out our channel. Hit that subscribe button so you know when the next event is coming. Hit the bell notification, or check out our website to learn more. And so with that, I just want to say thank you to my panelists as well. Hope you all have a good evening, morning, afternoon, week, and go Cats.